Looking at a research-rich country and a bad regulation implemented is our main concern, where we could actually utilize our resources to push our current economic state in the first place, highlighting that Eastern Indonesia's economy is lower than other parts in Indonesia. The gap of equality between Eastern Indonesia than the other sides of Indonesia in the way where we believe that expansion of extractive industries give us a shot to push ourselves, as my first speaker said, like low infrastructures, education, and etc., and don't want an uneven situation here. As government, our main incentive is the well-being of our people, increasing of investing in employment and etc. So young children of Eastern Indonesia often leave Eastern Indonesia because, like my first speaker said, because they think that they don't have a chance, and we are wasting talent that we have. Here we can see that they said that our local workers don't even have a shot or don't have the education needed to actually work in this extractive industry. This is because the gap that we have. So this can actually let our government realize the potential that we have, because this is between Eastern Indonesia. We have people to actually fight for the consent of like our ancestral land and etc. And also the government doesn't realize this. And once we implement this, the government will realize this and actually give a compensation or actually build a regulation where each actor gains some interest from those lands that they are using to expand the extractive industries in the first place. And also they said that local resources we can have local resources of job because government only care for profit, but here actually the government can give the attention that the stakeholders who are holding these extractive industries are like people who actually care, because this is all because Eastern Indonesia is often feeling missed out. That is why they don't trust others, because we think that they all don't want have something to do with us, and no one has ever reached us before. So this is why they usually mistrust us, and this is just the beginning. This is why we still think that Eastern Indonesia will still have some interest within building extractive industries in Eastern Indonesia in the first place. After that, the opposition side said, how does it go to Eastern Indonesia immediately? So here there's a very high chance where we can actually in the future compete with those outsiders, but because we don't have the education or even the infrastructures to actually do that, that is why our local workers don't have a shot. And this is something we must actually highlight and see, that this is only happening in Eastern Indonesia because of the gap between the gap of equality between Eastern Indonesians and the other side. Going to my first extension, how can this immediately go towards Eastern Indonesia? First of all, expanding the extractive industries in Eastern Indonesia will give us a chance to push our economic state. Why is this likely? Because the interest that we gain could actually help in many sectors, like technology or maybe education, infrastructures, and etc. that can actually push opposition's concern, where how can we actually develop our young children to compete with the other workers outside that actually can gain a very high chance of competing or gaining employment of these extractive industries. Even if there may be a chance that, opposition said, nature will be slightly damaged, but no offense, nature can be fixed in like 5 to 10 years. But if you leave our economic state at place for like 5 to 10 years, then we will all deal with poverty and etc. So it will come to a much greater loss of our nation. We will be research rich, but education poor, technology poor, infrastructure poor, and etc. So the money made from these extractive industries will eventually also be used to develop our eastern side of Indonesia. Go ahead.
If the opening of these industries are through military aggressive to Eastern Indonesian to force them to give their land, why it is justified?
So this is it is not justified by our government. It hasn't. It was not just. It is just not realized by our government, and this is because our government doesn't reach out to us. They don't see it. The government doesn't reach out to us. That is why we feel missed out. And this can also be the beginning where the government can actually realize that us Eastern Indonesia should not be looked down at, and put some regulations or tight regulations that can be used to or even compensate the land that we are using to actually prevent this from happening. So continuing, The money made from this extractive industry will eventually also be used to develop our eastern side of Indonesia, like economy. When our economy is pushed up, and then people can get education, and the kids are more potential, and they can actually contribute to Indonesia, where they can also contribute to the environment. They can actually protect the environment. They can do some programs and etc. with the education that they have to actually contribute to Indonesia's environment. So these resources made our country rich in the first place. This is why this leads to a more tight regulation. We do not deny the extractive industry will totally exploit us or destroy our nature, but realistically this only happens because of the bad regulations or policies that have been implemented. So our mechanism ensures that we will implement a policy that will prevent this exploitation from happening. The same thing happens with corruption. If the corruption actually deals with the well-being of people, but poverty actually can still be justified by some regulations, but poverty we must look at. We must see that this can actually destroy the well-being of our people and also the loss of our nation. So the gap between equality of the Eastern Indonesians and the other side of Indonesia is why we believe that the expansion of the extractive industries in Eastern Indonesia is within the interest of us Eastern people, because the weighing is simple. Opposition just said that we can compete, or maybe the local workers that have education, we don't have the capacity and etc. We don't have the capacity because the government didn't realize the potential that we have. So with this being said, the government can actually work with other people, can actually listen to the voices of the politicians, to listen to the voices of the people out there. So with this, they can actually help and find a way to actually fight for the capacity and the capability of us Eastern Indonesia to actually be a place where people invest in, or people actually expand their industries in. Because if we don't do this, then we can actually stay in the gap where people won't notice us, we won't trust other people won't reach out to us, and actually our young children of Eastern Indonesia will often leave us because they think that they don't have a chance, and then we are wasting the potential of Eastern Indonesia. The children will go out, they won't trust their places. Indonesia will just stay as a place where people just hatch from their eggs and then go throughout their future in other places. So here, we don't actually want to leave Eastern Indonesia in the place that they really are, but we want this to be the first step where the government can actually notice us, where the others know that we also have potential. The government will realize this and actually put more tight regulations, so all the compensation, the interest that we gain from this extractive industry can actually go towards our immediate Eastern Indonesia and actually invest or even reach out to our economy, our education, our technology poor, and our other infrastructures. Proud to oppose.